Story. The day started like any other. I woke at 6, made coffee, checked my emails. The apartment was quiet. My partner, Vanessa, had left early for a work meeting. I didn't think anything of it. We had been together for 6 years, and while things had been strained lately, I assumed it was the usual pressures of careers, finances, the slow erosion of routine. I dressed, grabbed my bag, and walked to the train. I noticed the man on the platform because he was reading a physical newspaper. In a sea of phone screens, he stood out. He was middle-aged, nondescript, the kind of face you forget the moment you look away. I didn't think about him again until weeks later, when everything collapsed. That afternoon, Vanessa called. Her voice was strange, tight, controlled. "We need to talk. Tonight." "What's wrong?" "I'll explain when I get home." She hung up before I could ask more. I spent the rest of the day running through possibilities: job loss, illness, something with her family. I didn't consider that she had been paying a stranger to follow me for 3 months. That thought never crossed my mind. She came home at 8. She was dressed in the sharp blazer she wore for important meetings, and she carried a leather portfolio I had never seen before. She sat at the kitchen table and gestured for me to sit across from her. "I have something to tell you," she said, "and I need you to let me finish before you say anything." I sat. The kitchen was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. "I hired someone," she said. "A private investigator. 3 months ago." The words didn't make sense at first. I repeated them in my head. She hired a private investigator. What? I've been feeling for a while that something was off. You've been distant, coming home late, taking calls in the other room. I thought. She paused, her jaw tightening. "I thought you were hiding something." I stared at her. "You hired someone to follow me." I needed to know. I couldn't keep living with the uncertainty. "Vanessa, I've been working late because I was covering for a colleague who had cancer treatments. The calls were with his doctors." "I told you that. You told me a version of that." I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. "So instead of talking to me, instead of asking, you paid someone to dig into my life? For 3 months." I didn't know what to believe. Her voice was rising. "You've been different. Distant. And I've been hurt before. I needed certainty." "Certainty." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "What did you find? What did your investigator find?" She opened the portfolio, pulling out a slim folder. "I haven't seen the full report yet. He called this morning and asked to meet. He said he needed to deliver the findings in person. So he found something. I don't know. That's what I'm trying to find out." She slid the folder across the table. "The meeting is tomorrow at his office. He insisted we both come." I didn't touch the folder. I looked at her, at the woman I had shared 6 years with, and I felt something crack inside me. "You hired someone to investigate me. You spent God knows how much money, our money we were saving for a house, to prove I was lying. I had to know. You had to ask. That's what partners do. They ask." She didn't respond. She sat at the kitchen table, her hands folded on the empty folder, and she looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. Fear, maybe, or guilt, or the beginning of understanding. "How much?" I asked. "What? How much did you pay him?" She hesitated. $45,000. I closed my eyes. $45,000. 3 years of saving for the down payment we had been building. Vanished. I walked out of the kitchen, down the hall, to the bedroom. I closed the door and sat on the edge of the bed, and I waited for the anger to come. It didn't. Instead, I felt a vast, empty calm, the kind that comes when something you thought was solid turns out to be hollow. I didn't sleep that night. I lay beside her, the space between us heavy, and I thought about the 6 years we had spent together. The early days, when she was funny and warm and made me feel like I was the only person in the world. The middle years, when we built a life, jobs, a shared apartment, plans for a future. The past year, when she started looking at me with suspicion, when every late night became evidence, every distracted moment a confirmation of her fears. I had tried to reassure her. I had explained the long hours, the difficult projects, the colleague who was sick. She had nodded, said she understood, and then gone behind my back and hired someone to prove I was lying. I didn't know what the investigator had found. I didn't know what he would say at the meeting. But I knew that whatever it was, it wouldn't change the truth. I had been faithful. I had been honest. I had been the partner she claimed to want. And she had chosen to believe a stranger's surveillance over my word. The next morning, we drove to the investigator's office. It was in a nondescript building on the edge of downtown, the kind of place that housed professionals who dealt in secrets. The office itself was small, utilitarian, with a desk, 2 chairs, and a file cabinet against the wall. The man who greeted us was the same one I had seen on the train platform. He was wearing a plain suit, his hair gray, his expression neutral. "Mr. and Mrs. Brennan," he said, gesturing to the chairs. "Please sit." "It's not Mrs.," I said. "Just Miss." He nodded, closing the door behind us. He sat behind the desk and folded his hands on the blotter. He looked at Vanessa, then at me, and I saw something in his face that I hadn't expected: discomfort. "I've been doing this work for 23 years, he said. "I've handled hundreds of cases. Infidelity, fraud, missing persons. I've seen things that would turn your stomach. I've delivered evidence that destroyed marriages, careers, lives. I've never once refunded a client's money." He paused, his eyes moving between us. "I'm going to refund yours." Vanessa leaned forward. "What do you mean? What did you find?" He pulled a thin file from his desk drawer. I expected a thick stack of photographs, transcripts, the accumulated evidence of 3 months of surveillance. Instead, it was a handful of pages, stapled together, barely enough to fill the folder. "I tailed you for 93 days, he said, looking at me. "I followed you to work, to the grocery store, to the coffee shop on 4th Avenue. I documented your routes, your routines, your interactions. I have photographs of you walking your dog, buying a sandwich, sitting in a park reading." He slid the file across the desk. "This is everything." Vanessa grabbed the folder, her hands shaking. She opened it, scanning the pages. I watched her face as she read, waiting for the accusation, the confirmation, the evidence that would justify her betrayal. Her expression didn't change. She read the pages once, then again, then let them fall to the desk. "This is it," she whispered. "This is all you found. That's all there was." "No. There has to be more." He was distant. He was hiding something. I know he was. The investigator looked at her with something that might have been pity. "Ms. Brennan, I've done this long enough to recognize when someone is hiding something. Your partner isn't. He works. He walks his dog. He has coffee with a friend named Sarah on Saturdays. He calls his mother on Sundays. That's it. That's the whole file." Vanessa's face was pale. "You must have missed something. He was coming home late. He was taking calls in another room. The late nights were work." I confirmed it with his employer. The calls were to a hospital oncology unit. I spoke with the colleague he was covering for. The investigator paused. "His friend, the one with cancer, passed away 2 weeks ago. He's been attending the family's memorial services. He didn't tell you because he didn't want to burden you." I stared at him. I hadn't told Vanessa about Marcus's death. I hadn't told anyone, not really. I had been carrying it alone, the grief and the exhaustion, because she was already so distant, and I didn't want to add to her burden. Vanessa was looking at me now, her eyes wide. "Why didn't you tell me?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. The investigator cleared his throat. "I'm going to give you a moment." He stood and walked out, closing the door behind him. The silence in the room was absolute. Vanessa sat across from me, the file open on the desk, the evidence of my ordinary, faithful life spread between us. "You were mourning," she said, "and I was having you followed." I looked at her. "When did you stop trusting me?" "I don't know." "When did you start believing I was lying?" "I don't know." 6 years, Vanessa. 6 years of being your partner. 6 years of showing up, of being honest, of trying. And you spent $45,000 to prove I was cheating on you." She was crying now, silent tears tracking down her face. I was scared. I've been scared for so long. Every relationship I've ever had ended the same way. And you were so good, so steady. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. I kept waiting for you to leave. So you pushed me away before I could. I didn't mean to. You hired someone to investigate me. You spent our savings. You treated me like a suspect in your own life. My voice was steady, but my hands were shaking. "What did you mean to do?" She didn't answer. She sat in the small office, the file still open, the proof of my innocence a condemnation of her doubt. I stood up. "I'm going to go. Mark, please. I need to think. I need to be alone." I walked out of the office, past the investigator standing in the hallway, past the reception desk, out into the bright afternoon. The city was ordinary, people walking past, cars honking, the world continuing as if nothing had happened. I walked for hours. I walked until my feet ached and the sun began to set, and I ended up at the river, watching the water move beneath the bridge. I thought about Marcus, my friend who had died, who had never known how much his illness had cost me. I thought about Vanessa, the woman I loved, who had spent 3 months having me followed rather than ask me what was wrong. I thought about the $45,000, the down payment for the house we had been saving for, the house I had wanted for us, a place where we could build a life. Gone. Spent on surveillance, on suspicion, on the proof that I was exactly who I said I was. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I could go back to the apartment, to her, to the life we had built on a foundation that had crumbled the moment she picked up the phone to hire a stranger to watch me. I called my brother. He answered on the second ring. Mark, you okay? No. I sat on a bench overlooking the river. Can I stay with you for a few days? Of course. What happened? I'll tell you when I get there. I took a cab to his house, a small place on the other side of the city. He was waiting at the door, his expression concerned, his arms open. I let him hug me, and then I sat on his couch and told him everything. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he let out a long breath. $45,000, he said. To follow you. To prove I was cheating. And you weren't. No. He shook his head slowly. What are you going to do? I don't know. Do you love her? I thought about the question. I thought about the 6 years, the good times and the bad. The woman who made me laugh, who held me when I was scared, who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. I thought about the woman who had spent 3 months having me followed rather than ask me what was wrong. I don't know, I said. I thought I did. Now I don't know what I feel. He nodded. Then take your time. Figure it out. Don't make any decisions tonight. I stayed with him for a week. I didn't call Vanessa. I didn't answer her texts, her voicemails, the messages she sent through mutual friends. I needed space. I needed to figure out who I was outside of the relationship, outside of the suspicion that had poisoned the last year. I went back to work. I walked my dog. I called my mother. I did the ordinary things that had made up my life before Vanessa hired someone to document them. And I thought about trust. I thought about the years I had given her, the honesty I had offered, the faith I had placed in her. I thought about the moment she decided my word wasn't enough, that she needed evidence, that she needed to prove I was lying before I could leave her. I thought about the $45,000, not the money itself, but what it represented, her willingness to spend our future on her fear, the house we had been saving for, the life we had been building, traded for a file that proved I was exactly who I said I was. On the 7th day, I called her. Can we meet? I asked. Yes. When? Today. The coffee shop on 4th Avenue. 4 o'clock. She was there when I arrived, sitting at a table near the window, her hands wrapped around a cup she wasn't drinking. She looked smaller than I remembered, diminished, her face bare of makeup, her hair pulled back. I sat across from her. I've been thinking, I said. She nodded, waiting. I've been trying to understand why you did it. Why you hired someone to follow me instead of talking to me. I told you. I was scared. I know. But I need to understand more than that. I need to know why you couldn't trust me. I need to know if you ever trusted me. She looked down at her hands. I wanted to. I tried. But every time things got hard, I started waiting for you to leave. I convinced myself it was only a matter of time. And when you started coming home late, when you were distracted, I saw it as proof. I saw the pattern I had been waiting for. I was working. I was mourning. I was going through something. And instead of asking me what was wrong, you assumed the worst. I know. You spent our savings on it. $45,000. The house we were going to buy. She flinched. I know. What do you want me to say? That I forgive you? That we can go back to how it was before? I don't know what I want. I miss you. I miss us. I looked at her, this woman I had loved for 6 years. I saw the fear she had been carrying, the wounds from past relationships, the desperate need to control what she couldn't control. I saw her, and I understood her, and I didn't know if that was enough. I can't go back, I said. I can't pretend that this didn't happen. I can't live with someone who will never trust me, who will always be waiting for me to leave. I'm in therapy, she said quickly. I've been going every week. I'm trying to understand why I did what I did. I'm trying to be better. That's good. That's really good. Does that mean you'll give me another chance? I took a breath. I don't know. I need time. I need to figure out what I want. How much time? I don't know that either. She nodded slowly. She picked up her coffee cup, set it down without drinking. I'll wait. I'll wait as long as you need. Don't wait for me. Wait for yourself. Figure out who you are when you're not afraid. I stood up, leaving money for my coffee on the table. I'm not saying no. I'm saying I need to heal. And you need to heal too. I walked out of the coffee shop, into the afternoon light, and I didn't look back. The weeks that followed were quiet. I moved out of the apartment we had shared, found a small place of my own. I filled it with my things, my books, my photographs. I learned to be alone again. Vanessa called sometimes. I answered when I could, let her talk, let her tell me about her therapy, her progress, the small steps she was taking to become someone different. I listened, and I was glad she was doing the work, but I didn't make promises. I didn't tell her I was coming back. I started therapy myself. A woman named Dr. Park, who listened to my story and asked the questions I had been avoiding. Why did I stay? Why did I accept being treated that way? Why did I let her doubt me without questioning her doubt? I didn't have answers at first, but slowly they came. I had stayed because I believed love meant sacrifice. I had stayed because I thought if I was good enough, patient enough, understanding enough, she would finally trust me. I had stayed because I was afraid of being alone, afraid of starting over, afraid of admitting that I had spent 6 years with someone who couldn't see me. I had stayed until the day she proved that my staying wasn't enough. 3 months after the investigator's office, I ran into him at a coffee shop. He was sitting alone, reading the same kind of newspaper he had been holding on the train platform. He looked up when I approached. Mind if I sit? He gestured to the chair across from him. Of course. I sat. We were quiet for a moment, the noise of the coffee shop filling the space between us. I've been thinking about that day, I said. About what you said. He folded his paper. I meant what I said. Why did you refund the money? You could have kept it. You did the work. He considered the question. I've been in this business a long time. Most of the time, I find what people are looking for. They want proof of what they already suspect, and I give it to them. But sometimes what they're looking for isn't there. And when that happens, I have a choice. I can give them a file that says, nothing found, take my money, and move on. Or I can ask myself what they're really paying for. What was she paying for? Certainty. She wanted to know that her fear was justified. She wanted proof that you were going to hurt her before you could. And when I couldn't give her that, I couldn't take her money. He paused. The truth is, she didn't need an investigator. She needed to believe she was worth staying for. I thought about his words for a long time after he left. I thought about Vanessa, about her fear, about the wounds she had been carrying from relationships that had ended badly. I thought about the 6 years I had spent trying to prove I was different, that I would stay, that she could trust me. I thought about the $45,000, the money she had spent to prove I was lying, the money she had traded for our future. And I thought about myself, the man who had stayed, who had tried, who had given her everything he had, the man who had been followed for 3 months, photographed, documented, reduced to a file. I was more than a file. I was more than the sum of my routines, my ordinary days, my quiet grief. I was a person who deserved to be trusted. I was a person who deserved to be seen. I didn't go back to Vanessa. I couldn't. The trust was broken, not because I had done anything wrong, but because she had never given it to me in the first place. She had spent 6 years waiting for me to leave, and I had spent 6 years trying to prove I wouldn't. I had proved it. I had stayed. But staying wasn't enough. Not when the person you're staying for is already gone. A year later, I was walking my dog in the park when I saw her. She was sitting on a bench, reading a book, her face peaceful in the afternoon light. She looked up as I approached, and for a moment, neither of us moved. Mark, she closed her book. It's good to see you. You too. I sat on the bench beside her, the dog settling at my feet. How are you? Good. Really good. I've been in therapy for over a year now. I'm learning to trust myself. It's harder than I thought, but it's worth it. I'm glad. She looked at me, really looked, and I saw something in her eyes that I hadn't seen in a long time. Peace. I'm sorry. For everything. For the investigator, for the money, for not trusting you. I know I can't take it back. I know I can't undo what I did. But I want you to know that I see it now. I see what I lost. You didn't lose me because you hired someone to follow me. You lost me because you never trusted me to stay. She nodded slowly. I know. I'm working on that. We sat in silence for a moment, the dog sleeping at our feet, the park alive with the sounds of children playing, birds calling, the ordinary music of the world. Are you happy? She asked. I thought about the question. I thought about my apartment, my work, my brother, my friends. I thought about the life I had built after she tore ours down. Yes, I said. I am. She smiled, a small, sad thing. I'm glad. We talked for a few more minutes, about nothing, about everything. Then I stood, called the dog, and walked away. I didn't look back. That was 3 years ago. I'm 41 now. I have a small house in a neighborhood I love, a garden I tend on weekends, a dog who still follows me everywhere. I have friends who see me, a brother who supports me, a life that is mine. I never hired anyone to follow anyone. I never needed to. The people I love, I trust. And if they leave, I let them. I think about Vanessa sometimes. I hope she's happy. I hope she's found what she was looking for. But I don't need to know. Her life is her own. Mine is mine. And it's enough.